The Stampede Julie had been hearing about Black Friday sales for weeks. Every ad on TV, the radio, and even online was buzzing about massive discounts on all kinds of items. The one deal that caught her attention was for a 70% discount on a brand new TV. Her old TV had been acting up for months. The screen would flicker, the sound would cut out, and sometimes it wouldn't turn on at all. Julie had been saving up to replace it, but TVs were expensive. This deal seemed like the perfect opportunity to get a great TV without breaking the bank. The sale was happening at the mall near her house. She'd been there many times before, but she had never gone for a Black Friday event. Julie had heard stories about people lining up outside stores, pushing and shoving to grab the best deals. She wasn't sure what to expect, but she figured it couldn't be that bad. After all, how crazy could people get over shopping? Julie decided to plan ahead. The sale started at 5 a.m., so she set her alarm for 3:30 a.m. She laid out her warmest clothes the night before: a thick coat, scarf, gloves, and boots. November mornings were freezing, and she knew she'd be standing outside in the cold for a while. She also packed a small bag with a thermos of coffee and a granola bar. Better to be prepared, she thought. When her alarm went off, Julie groaned. It was pitch black outside, and the air in her room was chilly. For a moment, she considered staying in bed. "Do I really need a new TV?" she muttered to herself. But then she remembered the discount and pushed herself to get up. After getting dressed and grabbing her bag, she headed out the door. The streets were eerily quiet as Julie drove to the mall. It felt strange being up so early, but as she approached the parking lot, she saw a massive crowd. Cars were parked everywhere, and people were already lined up outside the mall doors. Julie managed to find a parking spot far from the entrance and joined the crowd. She checked her watch. It was 4 a.m. Only an hour to go, she thought. The crowd was larger than she expected. People were bundled up in coats, hats, and scarves, but they didn't look relaxed. Many were pacing or shifting their weight from foot to foot. Julie could feel the energy in the air, a mix of excitement and impatience. Some people were chatting with friends or sipping coffee from thermoses. Others were staring at the doors, as if willing them to open sooner. As the clock ticked closer to 5 a.m., the atmosphere changed. People started moving closer to the doors, squeezing together to get as close as possible. Julie found herself pressed between strangers. She clutched her bag tightly, trying not to lose her balance. A man next to her muttered, "This is going to be nuts." Julie nodded but didn't say anything. She just wanted to get inside, grab her TV, and leave. At exactly 5 a.m., the doors opened. What happened next felt like a wave crashing onto a beach. The crowd surged forward all at once. Julie was caught in the middle of it, unable to move on her own. She was being pushed and pulled by the force of the people around her. Shouts and yells filled the air as people scrambled to get inside. Julie tried to hold on to her bag, but someone bumped into her, and it was ripped out of her hand. She shouted, "Hey, that's mine." But her voice was lost in the noise. Julie's feet barely touched the ground as the crowd pushed her through the entrance. She felt like she was floating, carried along by the sheer force of the people around her. Her heart was pounding, and she struggled to catch her breath. When she finally broke free from the crowd, she stumbled and nearly fell. She took a moment to steady herself and looked around. The mall was complete chaos. People were running in all directions, grabbing items off shelves as fast as they could. Julie headed straight for the electronics section, where the TVs were. She had memorized the store layout from a flyer and knew exactly where to go. But when she got there, she was shocked. The shelves were already being cleared out. Shoppers were grabbing boxes and piling them into carts. Some were even arguing over the same items. Julie spotted the TV she wanted and reached for it, but before she could grab it, a man snatched it away. "I saw it first," he barked. Julie stepped back, too startled to respond. She realized there was no point in arguing. The man's eyes were wild, and she didn't want to risk getting hurt over a TV. As she moved through the store, Julie saw just how intense the situation had become. People were shoving each other, knocking over displays, and yelling. She spotted a woman with a cart full of items struggling to push her way through the crowd. Another shopper tried to grab something out of her cart, and the two started shouting at each other. Then Julie saw something that made her heart stop. A woman nearby had fallen to the ground. People were stepping over her, too focused on their shopping to notice. Julie screamed, "Stop! Someone help her." But no one seemed to hear her. Finally, a store employee rushed over and helped the woman to her feet. Julie felt a wave of relief, but the sight had shaken her. "This is madness," she thought. Julie decided she'd had enough. She didn't care about the TV anymore. She just wanted to get out. Navigating through the crowd was like trying to swim upstream. People were everywhere, and no one was paying attention to where they were going. Julie kept her head down and focused on finding the exit. When she finally made it outside, she took a deep breath. The cold air hit her face, but she didn't care. She was just glad to be out of that chaos. Her hands were trembling, and her heart was still racing. She looked around and saw other shoppers coming out with carts piled high with items. Some looked triumphant, while others seemed just as shaken as she was. Julie walked back to her car, empty-handed. She sat in the driver's seat for a moment, trying to process what had just happened. She felt a mix of emotions: frustration, fear, and disbelief. She couldn't believe how far people were willing to go for a sale. "It's just stuff," she thought. "It's not worth risking your safety." As she drove home, Julie made a promise to herself. She would never go Black Friday shopping again. No discount was worth the stress and danger she had experienced. From now on, she'd stick to online shopping, where she could find deals without the madness. When she got home, Julie made herself a cup of tea and curled up on the couch. She turned on her old, flickering TV and laughed a little. It wasn't perfect, but at least she didn't have to fight a crowd to watch her favorite shows. That morning, Julie learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes, the best things aren't worth the fight. The parking lot nightmare Liam was no stranger to Black Friday shopping. Every year, he made a plan, carefully mapped out the best deals, and set his alarm early. He liked the thrill of getting good discounts without getting lost in the chaos. For Liam, it was almost like a game, one he prided himself on winning every year. This year, he was on a mission to buy the latest gaming console. It had been on his wish list for months, and Black Friday was the perfect opportunity to grab it at a reasonable price. Days before the sale, Liam had researched online, compared deals, and chosen a store that offered the best price. He even checked the store's opening hours and knew he had to arrive early to beat the crowds. On the morning of Black Friday, Liam's alarm went off at 5 a.m. He got out of bed, threw on a hoodie, and grabbed a quick breakfast. The streets were quieter than usual, but as he neared the shopping center, he noticed a line of cars heading in the same direction. The parking lot, which could normally fit hundreds of vehicles, was already filling up fast. Liam managed to find one of the last spots, squeezing his car into a tight space near the back of the lot. As he stepped out of his car, he took a deep breath. The air was cold, and his breath formed small clouds in front of him. He zipped up his hoodie and headed toward the store, where a small crowd had already gathered outside the doors. Everyone looked eager, clutching flyers and chatting about their plans. Liam joined the line, silently going over his strategy in his head. He knew exactly where the gaming consoles were located and had no intention of wasting time. When the doors finally opened, the crowd surged forward. People rushed inside, their footsteps echoing on the tiled floors. Liam kept his cool, weaving through the aisles with purpose. He reached the electronics section and quickly spotted the gaming console display. A small stack of boxes was still there, and Liam wasted no time grabbing one. He clutched it tightly, feeling a sense of triumph. Mission accomplished, he thought to himself, smiling. With the console secured, Liam decided to avoid browsing and headed straight for the checkout. The line was long but moved quickly. Within minutes, he was out of the store, holding his prized purchase in a shopping bag. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a soft orange glow over the parking lot. As Liam walked back to his car, he felt a sense of satisfaction. The hardest part of his day was over, and he could now go home and enjoy his victory. But as he approached his car, he noticed something unusual. Two men were standing nearby, leaning casually against a car parked next to his. At first, Liam didn't think much of it, but as he got closer, he realized they weren't just standing there, they were watching him. One of the men was tall and thin, wearing a black jacket and a beanie. The other was shorter and stockier, with a hood pulled over his head. Both of them had their eyes fixed on Liam's shopping bag. A small knot of unease formed in Liam's stomach. He instinctively tightened his grip on the bag and quickened his pace. When he reached his car, he tried to act normal, unlocking the door and placing the bag on the passenger seat. But before he could get inside, one of the men spoke. "Hey, nice haul," the tall man said, his voice friendly, but his expression anything but. The grin on his face didn't feel genuine. The shorter man stepped closer, casually blocking Liam's way. Liam's heart started to race. "Thanks," he muttered, keeping his tone even. "I need to get going." Before Liam could move, the taller man took a step closer. "What's in the bag?" he asked, pretending to sound curious. "Just some stuff I picked up," Liam replied, trying to stay calm. He opened the driver's side door, but before he could get in, the shorter man lunged forward and grabbed the bag. Instinctively, Liam held on, refusing to let go. "Let go," the man growled, yanking harder. Liam's grip tightened, and for a moment, it turned into a tug of war. But then the taller man shoved Liam hard against the car, knocking the wind out of him. Before Liam could react, the shorter man tore the bag from his hands and took off running. The taller man followed, and within seconds, they disappeared into the maze of cars. Liam leaned against his car, his chest heaving. His hands were shaking, and his mind was racing. He couldn't believe what had just happened. The gaming console he had worked so hard to get was gone, stolen in broad daylight. After a moment, he pulled himself together and walked back toward the store. He found a security guard near the entrance and explained what had happened. The guard listened sympathetically, but shook his head. "I'm sorry, but we can't do much," the guard said. "Well, check the cameras, but those guys are probably long gone." Feeling defeated, Liam returned to his car. As he drove home, he replayed the incident in his head, wondering if there was something he could have done differently. The excitement of the morning was completely overshadowed by the encounter in the parking lot. By the time he got home, Liam had made up his mind. Next year, he would stick to online shopping. Over the next few days, Liam couldn't shake the memory of what had happened. He felt a mix of anger, frustration, and helplessness. The gaming console had been a big deal for him, not just because of the discount, but because it was something he had been looking forward to for months. Losing it like that felt unfair. To make matters worse, he started noticing more stories in the news about similar incidents. Black Friday had become a breeding ground for opportunistic thieves, preying on unsuspecting shoppers. Liam read about people getting robbed in parking lots, scammed online, and even hurt in crowded stores. It made him realize just how risky the whole event had become. Despite the frustration, Liam tried to move on. He focused on work, spent time with friends, and avoided thinking about the stolen console. But deep down, the experience had changed him. He no longer saw Black Friday as a fun challenge. Instead, it felt like a reminder of how unpredictable and dangerous things could be. When the next Black Friday rolled around, Liam kept his promise to himself. He stayed home, browsing deals online from the comfort of his couch. As he clicked through websites and added items to his cart, he felt a sense of relief. There were no crowds, no long lines, and no one lurking in the parking lot. It wasn't the same as the thrill of shopping in person, but it was safer, and that was all that mattered. The baby in the cart. An extended story. Emma was not someone who loved chaos, and nothing screamed chaos louder than Black Friday shopping. For years, she had avoided the madness, choosing instead to shop online from the comfort of her cozy living room. But this year was different. Her sister, Lily, had convinced her to join the frenzy, promising it would be fun or at least memorable. "Come on, Emma," Lily had said over the phone. "It'll be great. We'll get the best deals on toys for the kids, and we can grab a coffee afterward. You'll see, it's not that bad." Emma wasn't convinced, but Lily had a way of persuading her. So, despite her reservations, she agreed. Emma had a 5-month-old baby, Jake, and she figured bringing him along wouldn't be too much trouble. He was a calm baby, usually happy to sit in his car seat and watch the world go by. Besides, it wasn't like she planned to stay out for hours. She imagined a quick trip to the toy store, grabbing a few items, and heading home. Arriving at the store, the reality of Black Friday hit Emma the moment she pulled into the parking lot. Cars were everywhere, weaving through the rows in search of a spot. People were already leaving the store with carts piled high, their faces a mix of triumph and exhaustion. Emma found a spot at the far end of the lot and parked, taking a deep breath before unbuckling Jake from his car seat. "All right, buddy. This is going to be quick," she said, kissing his forehead as she placed him into his portable car seat. She clicked it securely into the shopping cart she had grabbed from a nearby corral and headed toward the entrance. Inside, the scene was even more overwhelming. Crowds of people pushed carts through narrow aisles, grabbing at shelves filled with toys, electronics, and anything else on sale. The sound of chatter, laughter, and the occasional argument filled the air. Emma clutched the handle of her cart tightly, weaving through the crowd. "Why did I agree to this?" she muttered under her breath. Lily appeared beside her, holding a list. "Okay, we'll split up to cover more ground. I'll check the dolls and arts and crafts section, and you can look for the action figures and baby toys. Meet me by the checkout in 20 minutes." Emma nodded, though she felt a little uneasy. She wasn't used to being in such a chaotic environment, especially with Jake in tow. But she trusted Lily's plan and headed toward the back of the store. The search begins. Emma scanned the shelves, looking for the items Lily had mentioned. She spotted a toy truck set that her nephew would love and grabbed it, placing it in the cart next to Jake's car seat. Jake gurgled happily, oblivious to the madness around him. Emma smiled at him, feeling a little more at ease. As she moved down the aisle, she noticed a few parents arguing over the last box of a popular toy. She quickly decided to avoid that section and kept moving. She picked up a few more items, including a soft stuffed animal for Jake, and was about to head toward the front of the store when she realized she had forgotten to grab one of the items on the list. "Just one more thing," she said to herself, turning the cart into another aisle. The moment everything changed, Emma spotted the toy she needed on a high shelf and reached for it. She had just placed it in her cart when she heard someone shout, "Hey, stop that woman." Her heart dropped. She turned around and froze. Her cart, with Jake in it, was being pushed away by a stranger. The woman, dressed in a bulky coat and a hat pulled low over her face, was moving quickly toward the exit. "Jake!" Emma screamed, her voice shaking with fear. She abandoned the shelf and sprinted after the woman, her mind racing. The crowd seemed to part as Emma ran, her eyes locked on the woman and her cart. People turned to look, some confused, others concerned. "Stop her. She has my baby," Emma shouted, her voice desperate. A few shoppers tried to block the woman's path, but she dodged around them, her movements frantic. Emma pushed through the crowd, her heart pounding. All she could think about was Jake, his tiny face, his soft coos, his bright eyes. She couldn't lose him. She wouldn't. Near the entrance, a group of bystanders finally managed to corner the woman. She stopped abruptly, her face pale. Emma reached them seconds later and grabbed the cart, pulling it toward her. Tears streamed down her face as she checked Jake, who was startled but unharmed. "What were you thinking?" Emma shouted at the woman, her voice shaking with anger and fear. The woman stammered, I I thought it was my cart. I didn't see the baby." Emma didn't believe her. The way the woman had avoided people and tried to run didn't feel like a simple mistake. Security arrived moments later, taking the woman aside. Emma clutched Jake to her chest, her tears soaking into his tiny hat. The aftermath. Emma didn't wait to hear what happened to the woman. She just wanted to get out of the store and go home. Lily found her outside, sitting in the car with Jake in her arms. "Emma, what happened?" Lily asked, concerned. Emma explained everything, her voice trembling as she recounted the ordeal. Lily hugged her tightly, apologizing for convincing her to come out. For days, Emma couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. The thought of losing Jake haunted her, filling her with guilt and fear. She kept replaying the moment in her mind, wondering if she could have done something differently. "It wasn't your fault," Lily told her during one of their many conversations about the incident. "You did everything right. You got Jake back, and that's what matters." Emma nodded, but the fear lingered. She knew one thing for sure. She would never take Jake Black Friday shopping again. Moving forward in the weeks that followed, Emma found herself being extra cautious whenever she went out with Jake. She double-checked his car seat straps, kept him close in crowded places, and avoided situations that felt even remotely risky. She also started sharing her story with other parents, hoping to raise awareness about the importance of staying vigilant. "It's not about being paranoid," she told a group of moms at her parenting group. "It's about being prepared and aware. Things can happen so quickly." Her story struck a chord with many of the parents, some of whom shared their own close calls. Emma realized she wasn't alone in her fears, and that, as terrifying as the experience had been, it had taught her a valuable lesson about protecting her child. A new tradition the following year. When Black Friday rolled around again, Emma stayed home. She and Lily laughed about it over coffee, shopping online for toys while Jake played on the floor with his new stuffed animal. "This is so much better," Emma said, smiling at her sister. Lily nodded. "No crowds, no drama, just us and some great deals." Emma looked at Jake, who was happily chewing on a teething ring, and felt a wave of gratitude. The memory of that day in the toy store would always stay with her, but it no longer felt as raw. Instead, it served as a reminder of how much she loved her son and how far she would go to keep him safe. The overnight campout Tyler had always been a fan of scoring great deals during holiday sales. This year, he and his two best friends, Jake and Mia, decided to take their shopping game to the next level. Instead of waking up early to join the long lines, they were going to camp overnight outside a big box store known for its jaw-dropping discounts. It was Jake's idea originally, but Tyler and Mia quickly agreed. They figured it would be a fun adventure, a chance to hang out, snag some deals, and make memories. The trio prepared meticulously for the night. They packed a sturdy tent, foldable chairs, thick blankets, and a portable heater to fight off the bitter cold. Tyler made sure to bring snacks, hot chocolate packets, and a deck of cards to pass the time. Mia, the most practical of the group, brought flashlights, hand warmers, and a fully charged power bank for their phones. Jake, ever the joker, brought a Bluetooth speaker and insisted on creating a playlist for the occasion. When they arrived at the store around 6 p.m., they were shocked to see how many people were already there. The line snaked around the building, with dozens of tents and makeshift setups scattered across the parking lot. "Looks like we're not the only ones with this brilliant idea," Jake said, laughing nervously. Despite the crowd, the friends found a spot toward the middle of the line and set up their camp. Tyler was optimistic. "This will be worth it," he said. "We're here for the deals, and we're gonna get them." As the sun dipped below the horizon, the temperature dropped sharply. The group huddled close to their heater and sipped hot chocolate while they played cards. The atmosphere in the line was a mix of excitement and tension. Some people were chatting and laughing, while others kept to themselves, their faces set in determined frowns. Tyler noticed a few families with kids, their tents adorned with Christmas lights. It felt almost festive. But as the hours dragged on, the mood began to shift. Around 10 p.m., a man near the front of the line accused another group of cutting. Voices rose, and the argument escalated quickly. Security guards stepped in to calm things down, but the tension lingered. "Let's just stay out of it," Mia whispered to her friends. They nodded in agreement, choosing to focus on their game and each other. By midnight, the cold was biting, and the excitement had waned. Tyler's fingers were numb despite the hand warmers Mia had given him. Jake tried to lighten the mood with jokes, but even he seemed worn out. The friends decided to take turns napping inside the tent. Tyler volunteered to stay up first and keep an eye on their belongings. He watched the line, now quieter but still restless. People shifted in their chairs, wrapped in layers of blankets, their breath visible in the frosty air. Just as Tyler started to doze off, he heard shouting. A man from a nearby group was yelling, claiming someone had stolen his camping chair. The accused group denied it, but the argument quickly turned physical. Tyler's heart raced as he watched the scene unfold. Fists flew, and people nearby scrambled to get out of the way. Security rushed over, breaking up the fight, but the damage was done. The atmosphere in the line soured even more. When Jake and Mia woke up, Tyler filled them in on what had happened. "This is getting out of hand," Mia said, her voice tinged with worry. Jake tried to brush it off. "It's just a chair. People are stressed. Once the store opens, it'll be fine." Tyler wasn't so sure, but he didn't want to ruin the mood, so he kept quiet. As the night wore on, the cold became unbearable. The heater barely made a difference, and the friends found themselves shivering despite their blankets. The once fun adventure now felt more like a test of endurance. They weren't the only ones struggling. Tyler noticed several people packing up and leaving, unable to bear the freezing temperatures or the rising tension. Around 3 a.m., the crowd began to stir. People were restless, their patience wearing thin. The occasional argument broke out, and security guards patrolled the line more frequently. Tyler and his friends stayed close, trying to stay warm and avoid any trouble. They played music softly from Jake's speaker, hoping it would lift their spirits. It helped, but only a little. Finally, at 5 a.m., the store's lights flickered on, signaling that it would soon open. The crowd's energy shifted instantly. People stood up, shaking off their fatigue, and began packing up their tents and chairs. Tyler and his friends did the same, though they moved cautiously to avoid getting caught in the chaos. "Stay together," Mia said firmly. "No matter what happens, we stick together." When the doors opened at 6 a.m., the line surged forward. Tyler barely had time to grab his backpack before the crowd pushed past him. Their tent was knocked over in the chaos, and Tyler lost sight of Jake and Mia. "Jake, Mia," he shouted, but his voice was drowned out by the noise. He was carried forward with the crowd, struggling to keep his balance. Inside the store, the scene was even more chaotic. People were running, grabbing items off the shelves, and shouting at each other. Tyler spotted a discounted laptop had been eyeing and lunged for it, narrowly avoiding a collision with another shopper. He clutched the box tightly, his heart pounding. Around him, the chaos continued. Shoppers argued over TVs, video game consoles, and kitchen appliances. One man even threw a punch over a set of headphones. Tyler made his way to the checkout, weaving through the madness. He felt a mix of relief and guilt as he paid for the laptop. Was it really worth all this? The excitement had felt earlier was gone, replaced by exhaustion and disillusionment. He just wanted to find his friends and go home. Outside the store, the parking lot was a mess. Discarded tents, broken chairs, and trash were scattered everywhere. Tyler spotted Jake and Mia near their car, both looking shaken but unharmed. "You okay?" he asked, running up to them. They nodded, their expressions somber. "Let's get out of here," Mia said. The drive home was quiet. No one felt like talking. When they finally arrived at Tyler's house, they collapsed on the couch, too tired to even unpack. "Never again," Jake said after a long silence. "Next year, we're sticking to online deals." Tyler and Mia nodded in agreement. The laptop might have been a great deal, but it wasn't worth the stress, the cold, or the danger. They'd learned their lesson the hard way. The fight for the last toy. A longer story, Karen's day started with a mission to get her daughter the most wanted toy of the year, a unicorn plush. It wasn't just any plush toy. This unicorn was special. It had a glittery mane, sparkly eyes, and it could even sing when you pressed its belly. Every kid wanted one, and Karen's daughter, Emma, was no exception. For weeks, Emma had been talking nonstop about the unicorn plush. She'd seen the commercials, watched her friends at school talk about it, and had even written a heartfelt letter to Santa asking for it. Karen knew how much it meant to Emma, and as a mom, she wanted to make her daughter's Christmas magical. The only problem? The toy was sold out almost everywhere. Karen had been searching for weeks. She had checked online stores, local shops, and even asked her friends if they had seen one. But no luck. The unicorn plush seemed to disappear from shelves as soon as it arrived. Karen started to feel the pressure. Christmas was only a few days away, and she couldn't bear the thought of disappointing Emma. Then, late one night, Karen got a tip. A friend mentioned that a nearby store had just received a small shipment of unicorn plush toys. There weren't many, and they would sell out fast. Karen knew this was her chance. She set her alarm for 4 a.m. and went to bed with a plan. The next morning, Karen woke up before the sun. It was freezing outside, but she didn't care. She put on her warmest coat, grabbed a thermos of coffee, and headed to the store. When she arrived, a few other early shoppers were already waiting outside. Karen joined the line, clutching her thermos to keep her hands warm. As the minutes ticked by, more people showed up. The crowd grew larger, and Karen could feel the tension in the air. Everyone was there for the same reason, to get their hands on the season's hottest toys. Karen's heart raced. She wasn't a confrontational person, but she was determined. This was for Emma. Finally, the store doors opened. The crowd surged forward, and Karen quickly made her way inside. She knew exactly where the toy section was, having memorized the store layout during previous visits. She weaved through aisles, dodging carts and other shoppers, until she reached the toy section. And there it was. Sitting on the shelf, gleaming under the store's fluorescent lights, was the last unicorn plush. Karen's heart leaped. She grabbed the toy, holding it close as if it might disappear at any moment. Relief washed over her. She had done it. Emma would be so happy. But Karen's victory was short-lived. As she turned to put the toy in her cart, another woman appeared out of nowhere. Before Karen could react, the woman snatched the unicorn plush from her hands. "That's mine," Karen shouted, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and shock. The woman, who looked just as determined as Karen, clutched the toy tightly. "Finders keepers," she said, glaring at Karen. Karen couldn't believe what was happening. She had been holding the toy. She had claimed it first. But now it was in someone else's hands. Her frustration boiled over. "I grabbed it first. You can't just take it from me." The woman shrugged. "You let go. It's mine now." The argument quickly escalated. Karen reached for the toy, trying to pull it back, but the woman wouldn't let go. Shoppers nearby began to notice the commotion. Some stopped to watch, while others pulled out their phones to record the scene. Karen felt a mix of embarrassment and determination. She didn't want to cause a scene, but she also couldn't let this woman steal the toy. "You don't understand," Karen said, trying to keep her voice steady. "This is for my daughter. She's been wanting this toy for months. I woke up early and waited in line just to get it. Please, just give it back." The woman's expression softened for a moment, but then she shook her head. "My son wants it too," she said firmly. "I'm not giving it up." Karen felt her frustration turn into desperation. She couldn't lose this toy. She reached for it again, and the woman shoved her back. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Karen stumbled, but quickly regained her balance. The situation was spiraling out of control. A store employee rushed over, trying to mediate. "Ladies, please calm down," he said. "What's going on here?" "She stole the toy from me," Karen exclaimed, pointing at the woman. "I didn't steal it," the woman argued. "She wasn't holding it properly." "It's mine now." The employee looked overwhelmed. More employees arrived, and the store manager was called. The manager, a calm and composed man, listened to both sides of the story. He examined the unicorn plush, now slightly crumpled from the tug-of-war. "Here's what we're going to do," the manager said. "To keep things fair, we'll hold a raffle. Anyone who wants the toy can enter their name, and we'll draw a winner." Karen's heart sank. A raffle? She didn't like the idea, but she had no choice. She reluctantly agreed, as did the other woman. The manager collected names from everyone who wanted the toy, wrote them on small slips of paper, and placed them in a box. The crowd watched eagerly as the manager shook the box and pulled out a name. "And the winner is," he announced, pausing for dramatic effect. It wasn't Karen. Karen's heart sank even further as the other woman cheered and clutched the toy. Karen felt a mix of disappointment and frustration. She had come so close, only to walk away empty-handed. The crowd dispersed, and Karen left the store, her head hanging low. Back at home, Karen tried to shake off her disappointment. She found another toy for Emma, a cute stuffed animal that wasn't as popular, but still adorable. On Christmas morning, Emma unwrapped her gift and smiled. "Thank you, Mommy. I love it," she said, hugging the toy tightly. Karen realized something important that day. While the unicorn plush would have been nice, it wasn't the toy that mattered. What mattered was the love and effort she put into making Christmas special for her daughter. No toy was worth losing her dignity or peace of mind. And so, Karen let go of the frustration and enjoyed the holiday with her family, knowing she had done her best. Emma's smile was all the magic Karen needed.